Hi, it's Andre. So this is a very quick video to explain potential reasons for unstable brightness of the etching when, I don't know, it can look good on tile, but then you put it on the monument and it doesn't look as good. What happens quite often, in particular after customers have changed the etching head, is that they put the wires in a way that they touch either the gap sensor assembly, the moving parts, or the gap sensor itself. You need to understand that machine works with a very, very small gap, which is like 0.15 to 0.25 millimeters. And any kind of disturbance to this mechanism, anything touching it while machine works or initializes, will inevitably throw its gap reading off track, and usually incorrect gap setting results in either very bright or very dark etching. So first thing you need to do is you need to initialize your machine, and by moving its etching head all the way down as low as it gets and all the way up as high as it gets, you need to make sure that nothing touches the lever on either of the side, and nothing touches the gap sensor itself. For example, you see I'm moving this up and I'm seeing that this wire is actually touching my gap sensor right now. That's not good. You need to reroute this wire a little bit. God forbid you using zip ties to put the wires together. I saw some customers doing it, like they just kind of put a zip tie here. Not good, because it moves all up and down all the time, and it usually will create more problems than it solves. So everything should be moving freely, and you just need to make sure that the wires do not touch the gap sensor assembly. I'll turn off the etcher to get rid of that hissing sound coming from the motors, and I'll show you a couple of things. So first of all, obviously make sure that the etching head is sitting in its holder and it's sitting there firmly. To do this, there's this screw that kind of tightens. Well, the etching head is sitting in its holder, and it's sitting in its holder by the force of friction. And that force of friction is created by this tightening bracket, which is tensioned by the screw. So what you need to do, you need to remove the screw and actually make sure that the etching head is all the way up, because it's easy to, when you etch and you hit the stone, it will pop up. It's designed to do that, to work that way, to prevent you from damaging the etching head when it hits the stone. But sometimes what happens is customers either hit the stone and then they don't notice that it's popped up and needs to be pushed down, or when they install it, they don't put it in all the way correctly. So it needs to be all the way down, and when you're putting it in, don't push on this moving part, push it on the flanges. On the flanges, put it all the way down, make sure it's all the way down, and then you tighten that screw. But while you're doing it, it's very easy to make sure that this wire does not touch anything. You just rotate the entire etching head a little bit in its socket. And if for example, you originally installed it like this, which a lot of customers do, and it drives us mad trying to diagnose it. People just don't understand that nothing should touch the gap sensor, nothing should touch, even the sensor itself should not be touched, let alone the moving parts. So the chances are you installed your etching head incorrectly where this wire touches it, and it's really easy to fix. You loosen that screw and you just rotate it in its holder, and the wire will get away from the gap sensor assembly. And then obviously, once you've done that, you need to take back the screwdriver and tension that screw. Push it all the way down, tension the screw. Don't overdo it. It's enough to create enough friction that it will not pop up. And you can actually check afterwards that it doesn't pop up by pushing it from down, from down upwards by the flanges, making sure it doesn't come up. Now everything is correct. As you can see, this wire is away from my gap sensor. Nothing really touches the gap sensor as the whole assembly moves up and down. If the machine is not powered on, I can actually do it by just rotating the screw on top of the motor. You see, I'm moving it up and down, and apart from this thing, which I guess probably solved by just rotating this part a little bit, apart from this wire, nothing touches the gap sensor, nothing touches the moving parts of the gap sensor. And obviously another thing to check is this should be firm. I mean, it should move up and down, obviously, but it should be firm. The screw, there's a screw at the very bottom of the lip that touches the stone. That screw should definitely not be loose. So there should be nothing that is loose in this assembly. The only movement that you expect from this assembly is up and down. This screw at the end, this screw that I'm pointing my finger at, should sit there firmly. It should not wobble. It should be very firm there. The gap sensor itself should be very firm in its holder. There's two how do you call it? I don't know. Two nuts here, I guess, two nuts, which are designed to be loosened and tightened with your fingers. And those nuts are used to move it up or down when necessary. But those nuts will need to be firm, like you just firm them, you tighten them with your fingers. Everything should be firm, nothing should be loose, and then everything will work fine. Okay? So I guess that's my message. Make sure that the wires don't touch the gap sensor, let alone the lever. If they touch the lever, then it's really bad. And make sure that everything is firm. And once you check it, if you still get any problems, then we'll move to plan B and we'll talk about it separately.